Welcome to another episode of Tangled Rights. I'm one of your hosts that's stretching for some reason. Justin Wilson, middle initial W, last name Esquire. I don't fucking know, dude. That's Shane.
Shane D. Cox, middle initial D.
The D
Esquire,
stands for
Dennis.
Dennis.
It's my grandpa's name.
No, my grandpa's name was Bob.
I like that. Bobby.
Bob. And then his son, my dad, Bobby. And then my son, Bobby.
Bobby.
Bob, Bobby, and Bobby.
I don't know if I said episode 46 of Tangled Rights coming up on that 1 year anniversary.
Joe Byron.
He was president number 46. Yes, Joe Biden. Yes.
Joe Byron. You heard?
This is we are attorneys. We are licensed attorneys in the state of Nevada. We have a law firm, Cox and Wilson, operating in Las Vegas. Some cases outside of Las Vegas as well.
Yeah, we've got we got a couple of cases in Kansas. I'm doing a criminal case in Chautauqua County, District 14. Shout out.
Laughlin, different areas too within Nevada.
But
we can practice within all of Nevada.
Oh,
and
any state.
You can practice in Kansas. I have yet to take another bar exam. Maybe someday we'll expand Cox and Wilson worldwide. This is not construed or intended to be legal advice. Okay. Although we are attorneys, we are trying not to create a lawyer-client relationship with you unless you already are one. So feel free to listen to our podcast if you're one of our clients. We were so grateful to have Marco Luna, public defender, on last week.
Yeah, it was great.
We found out online through one of our comments that you and Marco are famous. You're on one of those law and crime network channels.
I knew that the camera was looking at me, so I just sat there with my arms crossed, not moving, trying not to talk, trying not to do anything.
Victoria Goodwin, 25 CR 020105.
Good morning, Your Honor. David Brown on behalf of Ms. Goodwin, who's present in custody.
Good morning, Your Honor. Christopher Hammer for the state.
This was called off at our request, and we're just asking for a status check in 2 weeks.
All right.
So you were there for the Ghost Adventures case that we've talked about.
In the sense that I was in the room. It was not my case, but
so
yes. Funny story about that, though.
Go ahead.
So I knew that it was going to happen, and all the media was in there, and then it looked like they were filming this blonde girl. There was like a good-looking blonde girl who was in there for a battery case, and I was like, I don't know what this girl looks like. Maybe that's her, whatever. But it looked like the cameras were looking at her, and so then I started listening to the negotiations, and it was pleading to battery with a drop down to disorderly conduct. And what that means is you plead to one charge, but then you do some requirements, stay out of trouble, generally do like an impulse control class, maybe take some counseling, pay a fine, whatever, and then at the end it drops to something lesser. Because disorderly conduct you can get for anything. You can get for yelling too much in the street, like. If it's midnight and you're outside of an apartment building hollering at one of your friends about a soccer game, you could get a disorderly.
And the cops get called and they want to do something.
You're an asshole.
Might be a disorderly conduct.
Sure. Battery is intentional infliction of harm on another person. It's a harmful or offensive contact. So that's a lot worse. Like if you're going through a background check, an employer is going to look at that. They're both misdemeanors. So they're sort of on the hierarchy. They're the same, but at the same time, they're not the same. Because like if I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is the kind of person that not only gets a battery, but probably had something else that got dropped to a battery. Anyway, so they're talking, and I'm kind of listening, but I'm also talking to somebody else. I think it was the marshal, and I hear pleading to battery, drop down to disorderly, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, solicitation to commit murder, attempted, and I was like, to battery. I was like, I better start getting better deals in this courtroom. I was pissed, but it turns out it wasn't her, so I was mad for no reason. But it looked like the cameras were looking at her. I was like,
and you didn't go to watch this. You had a case there.
Yeah.
Justin's in the department where the Ghost Adventures case is a lot.
Randomly happened to be assigned to that department.
We were there today, this morning. So we're there a lot. Cameras in the courtroom is abnormal. Maybe once a year in the specific courtroom you go into.
No, I'd say more than that, but definitely not once a quarter. It's like you know that thing where it's like less than one, but more than zero. It's one of those situations.
Okay,
it's like maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times a year.
And then the news was outside the courtroom today, and I don't know what that was for.
Bad was going on because there was some lady sitting there crying, and then a whole bunch of people that looked like they might be related or friends. I don't know. given some kind of impassioned speech about something. So
We'll wait till we watch the news to see what else.
I don't watch it, so you'll have to let me know.
Maybe we're in the background of another video. Who knows?
Damn, I hope not.
But Marco, Luna, and Justin were
he was like
there.
looking nice. He had his bolo tie on.
You weren't
and his
wearing your
jacket.
tie.
I wasn't wearing a tie or a jacket. I just had my vest on because sometimes, I just like to scrub it up, especially if I get slapped around, the day before. Then I'm less inclined to want to dress nice the next day.
So the one thing I saw, we'll talk about the Ghost Adventures a little bit because it hit the news. When you start to learn things about like a specific topic, and then you see that topic being talked about on the news, you realize how wrong the news is on so many things. There is a big report about her waiving her preliminary hearing. I'm like, man, she waived her preliminary hearing. I tried to do that in front of this judge. She wouldn't let me do that. So that's weird. Like, why would they do that? So we looked into it more and watched. She didn't waive her preliminary hearing. So when you read the news, take it with a grain of salt.
She did, not
in the way they were saying. Right?
So with a prelim, there's basically two ways to go from the court of limited jurisdiction, which is justice court, to district court that can dispose of gross misdemeanors and felonies. The grand jury, which is essentially a prelim, it's just less adversarial, where they present the case, they being the prosecution, to a jury of like 16 people, and they determine whether there's more likely than not evidence that the crime was committed. Or they go to a preliminary hearing where you have an attorney and you have a judge and there's evidentiary rules and you can lodge objections and all this stuff. But it's the same process, right? You get to ask questions and that. She waived in the sense that she's not invoking her statutory right to a prelim within 15 days because she's in custody, but she didn't waive it in the sense that she's waiving from justice court to district court. They still have to have the prelim or submit it to the grand jury. She just waived that time frame. But so the give and take there is that your attorney gets more time to get their head around everything, which in a murder case, there's usually a lot of evidence. But also, you're still in custody. So she's going to sit in custody without a determination getting to the next spot. That being said, the joking phrase that people give is that a grand jury could bind over a ham sandwich, right? Like you're going to find
return an indictment on a ham sandwich.
Return an indictment on a ham sandwich. And then with a prelim, I had a prelim the other day where the cop flat out said that he didn't have probable cause to do a search. Because he's like, I did it because he was wearing a vest and it had a patch on it and this, that, and the other. And it's like, so he didn't actually commit any crimes in front of you, huh? Nope. Okay, cool. And it still got bound over. So, yeah. My objections and the testimony's preserved for the motion I'm about to file, but still it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's rough to see. But, you still have access to justice at the next level. It just
takes a minute. And if you're in custody, it takes a minute.
Yeah, and that's like, why?
That's the thing that sucks.
Just why? So there was an analysis going on of an attorney saying, in what instances would you waive a preliminary hearing? And so even though that analysis doesn't apply, they did that analysis because the news is wrong. Take everything with a grain of salt.
But there are times.
He was saying that, yes, rarely you would, because sometimes that they have enough evidence to push it over, and you don't want to show all your cards because you might want to wait until trial to say, whatever defenses, whatever attacks you're going to do, because then maybe the prosecutor could prep that cop a little bit better, polish up their evidence a little bit better, or whatever they're going to do, they could make it a little bit cleaner. So if you catch them once at the right time and you win in front of the jury, that's better than in front of a judge who might just bind it over anyway. So
yeah. So the one that I'm thinking of most recently that we waved up on, we knew we were going to enter into a negotiation, and the prosecutor was not quite giving us the deal that we wanted. So in an effort to show good faith, I told my guy, I was like, look, we're going to go up anyway. We know that the prosecutor doesn't know that we're taking this deal regardless, because we know that we're screwed now after reviewing all the evidence. But I'm trying to sweeten it. And so I was like, look, I understand you've got to make some more checks or whatever. We'll go ahead and bind up to get the ball rolling so you're not sitting here in an effort to show good faith. And I was like, just remember that my client did that.
It could be tactical. Yeah.
And then he was like, you know what, you're right. We'll give you what we want. I was like, boom, job done. And so, sometimes it's a give and take. And then other times, like for example, if a victim shows up, but it's like a victim that I know is kind of flighty and like sucks, or like, could very well have something bad happen to them because of the line of work they're in, right? Like drug dealers or gang members, if they show up after getting shot, okay, we'll wave up. He's here. We'll just wave because we don't want to preserve their testimony because something bad could happen to them. They could disappear. They could get arrested, all these things. And so it's like you have to read not only the room, but also kind of the tea leaves to figure out exactly what you want to do. And it's not always art. Sometimes or it's not always science. Sometimes it's art. And it's difficult to get right 100% of the time.
And every case is different.
Yes.
And that, everybody always tries to compare their case to somebody else's, right? Like if that's all you've been exposed to.
Said he got probation.
This guy got probation.
This case got dismissed.
What's going on?
Okay, cool.
So
I had
every
a
case is different.
Where a guy shot another dude in the chest 2 feet from a camera. You see him go past the camera. You hear him fighting. You hear the pow, and then you see him run away. 364 days in county for attempted murder, which is typically, especially when his record, he was habitual eligible, but there were lots of problems with that case, predominantly the victim, if you can call him that.
So every case is different. Victoria Goodwin will track it. We'll be in court that same day. You're in that courtroom 3 times a week, right? At least. So
usually
very likely that you'll be in there again. We'll be tracking this case as
that
it
one's
goes.
up on the 10th, right?
I think I just looked. It's the 8th right now
Of April.
Yeah, so real soon.
Let's see.
Negotiations on calendar. So who knows? Maybe they'll negotiate. Usually they don't negotiate those. Those are usually pretty big deals to take a long sentence for an attempt murder.
I got a prelim.
We got all sorts of things going on. We're always going around.
I do have a prelim that day.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
All right, so sometimes it's difficult for me to find hats that fit into our stories, especially last week, and I got to rack my brain for it. This time we did something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Justin said, "Don't you have a hat for everything?" So I said, "All right, where's my first hat?" And I grabbed one
I told you to pick your favorite, one that you liked.
I just grabbed the one that was in front of me on my desk.
Okay.
And it was for the city of Salem, Massachusetts. I'll show you. This is a different one than we were talking about because I got multiples for him. This is the Salem beer mongers.
The beer mongers?
Yeah. I don't know what mongers means.
Like a fishmonger. Fearmonger is someone who cultivates in that thing.
But this is a guy that looks like he works at a soda shop.
He cultivates
beer. Who's a glass of beer, serving a beer. That's cannibalism, I think. Not very appropriate. Red bill, navy blue front, sky blue back, but cool logo.
There's
cartoony diner beer man. It's fun.
A cellar of beer.
Like it.
It's literally just a cellar of beer. That's what
a beer monger is.
Yeah.
Somebody who sells beer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
And there's a beer monger place in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. So then it was like, okay, well, what can we do about Salem? What famous criminal cases have happened in Salem? Well, there was a very famous trial that happened long ago before we had the protections and laws that we have now.
Before the Constitution was in place.
Before the Constitution.
I want to make fun of Justin a little bit because he always makes fun of me for my board games and nerd stuff. How do you know so much about the Salem Witch trials, Justin?
Oh, so I was Judge Danforth. No, Judge Hawthorne. Shit. I can't remember which judge I was. I think I was Judge Hawthorne. Whatever the more minor of the two is, in a play called The Crucible when I was in college, because I was a dual major.
In college, not just like in middle school or high school.
What are you talking about?
I was a dual major BFA performance because I was on scholarship for it, so I had to be a major to get the scholarship. And apparently I was good enough that they... So anyway, I researched a little bit about the Salem Witch trials, and it's absolutely insane. So basically, the play kind of mirrors it, and they did a pretty good job of being factually accurate. The presumption is that this guy was having an affair, and then the girl that he was having the affair with, Abigail Williams, his name was John Proctor, didn't want him to go back to his wife, and so she started threatening, telling everybody that everybody was witches, and then it became nuts. That's the play. The background as far as that lady accusing his wife of being a witch is true, and then that led to all these other people, and then people got killed, being tortured to testify on their neighbors, and the Giles Corey, the guy that you looked up whenever you were looking about the Salem Witch trials,
right.
He was asked to testify about his wife, and he wouldn't do it, and they pressed him. which literally means you're tied down to the ground and they put
not just pressed him, like pushed him for the information.
Well, this is probably where it comes from. Like that might be how we get the phrase. I don't know.
The language?
It makes sense. Like, because it was a form of pressing was a torture. So they put you on the ground or on a flat surface, probably the ground. They put a board on you and they just start adding rocks. And eventually it gets so heavy, it just collapses your lungs.
So it's a crush. I mean, it's crushing, right?
You've been crushed. Yeah.
You've been pressed to death, like making a panini or something.
Yeah. Or like if you get caught in like, a piece of equipment, right? Like it's the same thing. It's just the difference is instead of having a pneumatic machine that's pushing it down, I've got like, I'm going to add a rock. What do you say now? Oh, you're still good? Cool. And
was it in Korea where they had those people that died like in a concert or something? There was too many people.
I mean, that happens all the time. That didn't that happen?
No, there was like a big at a ASAP. No.
Yeah,
it wasn't
Travis Scott.
Travis Scott's concert.
And there was like 14, 12-year-olds that got killed. And the one was like yelling at the cameraman and he's just like pushing him. He's like, they're dying, help them. And the cameraman's like, get the fuck off of me, I have to film this. Anyway, so the thing there is that you basically have a story where somebody says, hey, this thing happened. And it's something that you can't prove, which occurs today, right? There are crimes where you could commit a crime on me, but there's not really any evidence of it. Let's say I wait a little while to tell you or to tell anybody about it, or it's a crime like that doesn't leave a mark, right? It's not like you stole money out of my bank account or took my truck and it's at your house. Let's say you tied me up in your house for a week. You didn't hurt me. You just kept me in there against my will. Nobody knew where I was at. I get out and I'm like, Shane tied me up in his house and there's no Ring cameras. Let's just, for this sake, say that there's nothing that puts me there. Right, my phone was at my house. Nobody knows where I was, and I'm like, he did it.
Except the more likable person, right?
Well, then I'm fucked. You better not ever do that to me.
Isn't that what it is?
No one's gonna believe me.
It's the more likable person that they're going to believe, right? Not the town weirdo. Even if the weirdo didn't do anything. You know?
I mean, how many instances of that happen? So there are parallels.
That still happens. Yeah,
there are parallels with modern.
It's just worse then,
right? But the deal also is hearsay. Right, that's a big protection that we have under the rules of evidence. But the rules, now, and that's the point. Like the rules of evidence, and it was more of like a a theocratic kind of thing rather than like judicial, like because they were judges, but they're
all religious or friends, who any kind of non denominational movement.
Puritans, I think. So they were like...
That's anything against us? Yeah.
They had the little buckles on their hats.
Massachusetts, for sure.
Yeah. And so it's just a really weird situation, but there are parallels to things that happen now. And I think it's pretty interesting. And then obviously everybody knows about it because, what was it, like 13 or 14 people got killed?
In the Salem Witch trials?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they like to bring it up, the Salem... Red Sox did not have any hats for witches or anything like that. They don't.
20 people.
They don't use that kind of imagery anywhere. It was the beer monger.
So it was 19 by hanging, 1 man pressed to death, and 5 died in jail due to harsh conditions.
Yeah, the one. So the Seoul, Korea Halloween crowd crush, largest of all time, happened 29th October 2022. 159 people died. Yeah, that's why it was huge international news. This was the biggest one ever by a long shot, like more than double.
A bad way to go. I remember I was in college one time, and it wasn't a mosh pit, but everybody was kind of jumping around. It was to Breaking Benjamin, and something happened, and somebody tripped. Oh, the crowd was going left and right, so like people were kind of like not like wall of death or anything, but just like moving a lot.
Yeah,
and somebody tripped, and then the whole crowd ends up falling. Bro, I'm talking for just a moment. Like it felt like a long time, but probably 3 or 4 seconds. I couldn't breathe and someone was over my head. I thought I was going to die because I go to move and I mean, I am just.
And you realize how fragile
and it was
you are.
Immediately so
and
hot
how
and I
heavy
couldn't breathe.
People are.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps just thinking about it. That's the only time that's ever happened to me. It scared the fuck out of me. But luckily, at a venue that small, people were like, oh, hey, and they start pulling them from the outside. And then by the time, they got us up in 10 seconds or something, but it was just scary.
So in Seoul, Korea,
there were more people.
It was tons of people. They were having like a Halloween themed party, and it just kind of got out of hand. People were running around and just kind of just too chaotic, too many people, and just 159 people dead, 196 others wounded. So yeah, not too long ago. This happened just over 2 years ago. So surprised you guys don't know about it. Shane is the most news watching guy here. All right. Anything else about the Salem Witch trials? I don't think I'd want to get pressed to death. What would you choose? We talked about death penalty
Oh,
before. You want to get shot to death, right?
yeah, that's fine. It's gonna be quick.
Okay. All right.
The way that they do it, you've got 5 people around you. You're sitting in a chair. They put something right over your heart, like a little thing, a target or a sash or something.
Yeah.
And so it's 30 caliber weapons. So
It depends on the state, right? Because
Sure.
The recent one we were talking about was South Carolina.
But they did theirs like this.
There's only one guy that had a dummy bullet in there.
Yeah.
There was only like 3 or 4.
And so it's 5 people with 1 guy with a dummy bullet. But the times that I've shot blanks, you can tell it's a blank. But maybe since it's just 1 bullet, you don't have that frame of reference of the round next to it. But yeah, I think that one would be okay. Beheading wouldn't be bad. Well,
That'd be pretty medieval, man.
I'm just saying from the perspective.
You want the
of
gnarly ones.
I'm just saying from the perspective of like, nothing's going to go wrong with that. Your head's in the thing. The deal falls. You're done.
I don't know. Yeah.
Which do you choose?
Oh, I don't know, man. They say the euthanasia is the most humane, but then there's like other reports that
That fucking
it
dude in
sucks.
Oklahoma where it took him 2 hours to die because they had to try to reverse engineer the
I don't know.
car.
What are my options? What else is there? Firing squad, euthanasia,
However you want. You can
hanging?
debate.
No.
Hanging
That's
would suck.
horrible.
Hanging, like, so they put the sheet over your head, they put
No.
the noose around your neck, and you're standing there just waiting to drop, like, oh shit.
No.
Like, that's the part, I think for me, the anticipation would be the bigger problem. Because it's like the times where I've almost died or like I could have died, it's like, it wasn't a guarantee. Whereas it's like, hey man, I need you to stand right here. And you're done. Like, these are the last seconds you're going to have on this earth. You know, that's a different thing. And I think that part would be real tough.
What if they could do, they have like those Mayan ones where they pushed them off like cliffs or something, right? And they would just fall to their death? Wasn't that a thing?
Oh, you mean they splatter on the ground?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds unpleasant.
Yeah.
Because you not only do you have, hey man, come on, could you not? And then they push you off. It's like, oh shit.
Like, what does your mind go through in those moments? It's just
Nothing good, man.
all right. Anything else about the Salem Witch
So
trials?
another one about that, over 200 people were accused. And basically my understanding is it was kind of a waterfall. So it's like a lot of things, like they talked about Gitmo and how interrogation techniques don't work on people. And a lot of times the people they were trying to interrogate turned out not to be
the right
people.
subjects.
And this kind of ties into like the whole communist thing, like with the Russians and how they just tell on their neighbors. If the KGB would come to their house, they'd be like, oh, well, Shane is definitely a spy. I've seen him talking to somebody who looks like an American or whatever. And so it's interesting because in all these different instances, the same thing happens. People were like, oh,
Hysteria,
not me.
dude.
Like, oh, it's them. Like, and then they would come in and these
you
people
do anything to protect yourself.
yeah. Well, these girls, what they were doing is they'd be in court and they'd be like, oh, it was her. And she's like, it wasn't me. And she'd stare at them all mean. And then they'd go, ah! And they like start having seizures. And they're like, look, she's committing witchcraft on them right now. And then the lady's like, no, I'm not.
We're just having a panic attack.
She killed them. The ladies. And they're like, you know, it's like the thing where the hysteria and like, supposedly they would like fall and like go into like seizure kind of stuff. And so it's like how much of it is acting and how much of it is, are they convincing themselves that this is real? But what you really have is some teenage girls with some angst and bipolar. And then you end up with 25 people that get killed and 200 people that are charged with it and imprisoned.
So many complaints about our judicial system, but wow, like how much better is what we have than this old system
Then
where
1692,
you're
bit.
accused by the wrong person. So your life's just done.
Yeah.
That don't get me wrong that those things happen still.
Sure.
But you have a much better shot of proving your case, and it's not like you're having trial, right then.
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
no attorney.
Yeah. Oh,
you know?
you've been accused. How do you plead? Not guilty? Great. Witnesses, please. Trial now.
And then no cross-examination.
The rope is ready. Perfect.
No
Let's get this over with.
cross-examination or anything like that.
Yeah.
No attorney arguing for you on your side. So, hey, the developed world can be better in ways, right?
Can be.
Can be.
And we have antibiotics. That's cool too.
And soda pop,
We do have pop.
and Monster white energy drinks, baby. And minor league baseball hats.
Semi-automatic weapons. Hell yeah.
I mean, semi-automatic.
So the one thing that I thought is interesting that when I was looking stuff up about this, it said that there's a rumor that potentially they killed dogs because they thought they were familiars of the witch. And a familiar of a witch is like an animal counterpart that kind of does their bidding and like can see things for them. And the idea is, it's like Harry Potter, right? He has the owl.
Yeah.
The owl is their familiar. And the one guy who had the rat, like there's different familiars you can have. Not everybody gets an owl. And like in most Magic games, like Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, it can be all kinds of things. It can be a crow, like in The Crow. That would be an example of a familiar, the one with Brandon Lee, you know?
No, but sure.
It's a good movie.
Okay.
Brandon Lee's Bruce Lee's kid. He got killed on set.
Oh.
Because
You get shot accidentally?
Yeah, he got shot accidentally.
That came out when,
It was like a chunk of, it was a bad blank. That's what, I think it was a bad blank, and like the cap came off and it hit him like square in the heart, killed him dead. And it sucked because like he was just getting started in his career and he did a very good job. I like that movie a lot. So one of my favorite lines from any movie.
All right, we'll put it on. We'll
Mr.
put it
Gideon,
up for
you aren't paying attention. Whack, and hits him in the face with a baseball bat.
Gideon.
Yeah, there you go.
There's the tie-in.
Apparently, it might have been a Baldwin thing.
Another Baldwin case where it was
don't
actually
be stupid with
live
guns,
round.
guys. Anyway,
Yes.
So yeah, Salem Witch Trial is very different than today. But also because we're humans and they were humans back then also, there are a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
Things still happen. Human nature is still the same. And I think that's, when I was talking about Russia and all that stuff, that was the more interesting point, is that you have, this is what happens when someone's accused and these people want something. And so they use the system that they have to try to get their goals. And it filters through time in the same way, just different venues.
Right.
That's the thing that would be really cool if we could kind of fix about people. Well, I'm not being funny. Like if you could,
it's never going to happen, right?
I know it just sucks, dude. Like, cause you've been accused of something you didn't do when you were a kid. You broke a window or whatever.
Sure, something.
Fucking sucks. Could you imagine if you knew that at the end of being accused of something you didn't do, you're going to get fucking hung?
And you have the person, who's in charge who believes the other person rather than you, even though, that is a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, especially when the only evidence is their testimony.
Yeah.
Sucks. Hadada.
Sure. There's countless examples, right?
Yeah. Anyway.
And some of our criminal clients face that.
Mm-hmm.
Some have actually done the crimes accused of.
Some try to sell illegal drug, marijuana, in the state of Nevada to undercover police officers on Fremont Street.
Is that illegal?
Yeah, you can't do that.
No. Well, without giving the proper cut
to the
local government.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say.
That is the problem. The government is not getting their piece of the action.
Because the people in this case didn't even have more than you're allowed to have. They had 26 grams. You're allowed to have 28. The problem is that they sold an eighth to a cop for $40.
Oh, that's the crime of the century, man.
So stupid.
That's the crime of the century.
Well, I'm trying to think about it. Like I don't have a license to sell bullets. I don't know if you need one, but if I wanted to sell, like if we're out at the range and I sell you 50...
Austin gave me some recently for free.
No, they just fell off the truck.
They fell off the truck.
Okay. Yeah. But you get the point that I'm making, right? Like, so who gives a shit? If the weed itself is legal and I bought it and I paid tax on it and you're like, hey man, I didn't have time to go to the dispensary.
So I could let you smoke it with me.
100%. I can give it to you, but I can't sell it to you.
But what if you wanted to pay me back after? Like, bro, I know that cost you money.
Technically, I think you're...
Is that a sale?
Yeah, your possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell.
Like in Japan, can't they not have hookers? So then they buy like stuffed animals for a cost and then give a hooker a stuffed animal instead of money.
I don't know.
Have you not heard of this loophole?
No.
Have you heard of this loophole?
I don't know much about the prostitution in other countries.
I think it might be Japan.
Hey, you walked right into that one. Bow.
I did. Yeah, I did. So there are loopholes like that like
don't
people
they do
try
a
to get
bunch
around.
Of weird shit in Japan when it comes to that kind of stuff? Like there's vending machine with underwear in them and shit.
I don't want to know. Are they the country that people won't date and get married, so they're worried about their replacement numbers because people won't have kids?
Oh, like every country on the planet.
Like they're
except
not
for
having.
India?
Yeah, they're not having like sexual relations or partners at all. Like, it's an all-time low. So, weird. So we talked about this historical aspect of Salem. Thank you, Salem Red Sox. Last week, we talked about the Gideon case with our public defender guest, Marco Luna, who's awesome. Thanks for being there.
I have one more thing for the Salem Witch Trials.
Go ahead.
There was a test that they would do to find out if they're a witch, and they touch on this in Monty Python.
Measuring them next to the duck?
No, the swimming test. So they tie them up and they throw them in a river, and if they sink, they're not a witch, but if they float, they're a witch. Because the idea was that water was pure and it would reject evil. So if they floated, it was evidence they were a witch. So you better hold your breath when they throw you, or you better blow all your breath out when they throw you in the water.
Get to the bottom. What if you can't swim and you die?
Well, the rope was tied to you and they'd pull you out.
Oh, okay. Hopefully in time.
Hope that they knew.
They weren't witches.
They do resuscitation. Oh, well, not a witch, but she died. That
Same
sucks.
time.
God wills it.
So our rights in criminal defense law have evolved a ton.
Yes.
Since the Salem Witch trials, we talk about the Constitution all the time. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to that Constitution, which just clarified and gave us like a ton of these amazing rights that we invoke all the time for our clients. Well,
Codified.
I mean, if we didn't have the Fourth Amendment written up, what would it be like? You know,
Well, that's still a human right, I think.
you think, but yeah, if it weren't there, what would the prosecutors say all the time, right? Submit yourself to the state, baby. So in the 60s, we saw a development of more of these rights. We talked so much about Gideon, the expansion of the public defender.
Yeah.
In 1963, we did not get to a 1964 case we want to talk about today, which is Escobedo versus Illinois. A guy by the name of Danny Escobedo, okay? This happens in the Chicago area. Danny has a rough history, not a good guy.
They always
He has a bad history after this case too, but that doesn't matter. It can be any person whose rights get violated that can go up to the proper level, to the U.S. Supreme Court, to say, here's an exact example of what's wrong. Like, next time across the United States, nobody should be doing this. The cops should not be doing this in the future. So tell me a little bit about Danny Escobedo's case, Justin.
So it was a bit of a different case because basically the way that the law works is every time you have a Supreme Court case like Gideon, they don't look at it in the complete macro context. It's often in the micro. So Gideon provided the right to counsel, but focused at trial. What Escobedo did is, well, let me tell you what the facts are. So he's wanted for a murder, potentially. Police want to bring him in for questioning.
Murder of his brother-in-law or
family member of some sort.
His sister's boyfriend, something like that.
Something like that.
Who was beating him, right?
Yes.
He ends up dead.
Yes.
D-E-D
Dead guy.
Dead.
So they bring him into the station. When he's at the station, he says, hey, I want my lawyer. And they're like, sick. Anyway, tell us more about this. And he ends up confessing. They go to trial.
He ends up confessing. Why, though? How does he end up confessing?
Oh, he was...
Because his co-conspirator, the other guy who alleged to have committed the murder with him, goes in and talks to him too.
Correct. And then they use that against him, which is one thing that they like to do. Even if this hasn't happened, the cops will go in and be like, hey, your boy already told us everything. Just tell us.
You might as well tell us now. We already know everything.
If you already knew, you wouldn't be fucking asking me.
It's going to work out better for you if you work with us.
Shut up.
It's hardly ever the case.
And let's talk about this later.
Yeah,
we will talk about that later. So he goes to trial. He loses. And the Supreme Court ruled that once a police investigation focuses on a suspect in custody and the purpose is to elicit a confession, then they have the right to counsel under the Sixth Amendment.
And his co-conspirator, I mean, they admitted that they did this murder, right? Mm-hmm. His co-conspirator was a brother-in-law as well, and they didn't like how they were treating the sister-in-law. His name was Benedict DiGirlando, which was just an amazing name, Benedict DiGirlando. So they put him in the same room, and they said, basically, hey, we both decided to do this, was kind of the admission, which is an admission. Anybody would think that that's an admission. So the fact that he's put up by the state, the state is actually furthering eliciting that testimony, even though he demanded his attorney.
Yeah.
This is the case law for a couple years before Miranda comes out, I believe in 1967. So just a couple years, 3 years after.
66, no?
Somewhere around there. So Miranda is considered kind of like a consumption of the Escobedo case. And has these rights to be read. So when you sign away those rights or say you waive, you just
understand them.
Your Miranda, you understand them and then you're agreeing to talk to the police, right? So some states have you sign something because they just want to cross their T's and dot their I's so you can't argue later. They'll have you sign the Miranda card or sign something saying you do want to talk to police.
Yeah.
So Escobedo, I think, still makes sense, but Miranda just kind of consumes it. And there's an argument of whether it's a Sixth Amendment right versus a Fifth Amendment right. Doesn't really matter. You just don't have to talk to cops.
Correct.
ever.
And we've kind of touched on this. It's not as clear cut as, oh, you're in the police station, right? It's when a reasonable person, when you're under custodial interrogation and a reasonable person would not feel free to leave. That can happen on the side of the road. It could happen at your house. It could happen in a police station.
Yeah.
It could also not happen in a police station.
It could be anywhere that you're quartered in.
If I walk into a police station because of something else, like they have that prescription drop-off thing, where you can usually, and most police stations have those. So let's say I go in with my buddy because his grandpa dies, and he's like, hey, I don't know what to do with all this stuff from his medicine or whatever. I was like, oh, I know a place, let's go. Let's take him down there, and the cop's like, wait a minute. Weren't you? And they start asking me something. Might not be custodial interrogation because I'm just in there to do that. So even if I'm being talked to by a police officer in a police station, it might not be enough. So you might not need to give me any rights. And I could just be, speaking, which would not be a smart idea.
Right. And I watch a lot of these police videos now. Some of these questions and things you see, I think, are really dumb, like that people repeat. Some are good. Am I free to go is the one question that I think is amazing. I would always recommend somebody asking a police officer, am I free to go? There's a little bit of a meme as to, am I being detained? Because that's like a sovereign citizen question almost. Am I free to go? It's the same, but just I think it's the idea behind it.
It's a two-part question. Am I being detained? Because if the answer is no, then you don't even need to ask them if you're free to go.
Yeah.
If I'm not being detained,
you can ask.
Big gulps, see ya.
Am I being detained? Yeah. No. If they avoid the question,
sure,
I'd repeat it.
100%.
Am I free to go?
And that's the other thing.
Well, I want to talk to you. Am I free to go? And if they say yes, you leave. If they say no, then you're being detained. Invoke your right not to talk.
And it has to be an unequivocal invocation. And what that means is it has to be very clear. It can't be like, well, I really don't want to talk to you. I think I
need to talk to my attorney.
Yeah. It can't be, I think. It's got to be, no, I'm not talking to you. I want my attorney.
Or asking the cop, do I need to talk to my attorney? The cop can lie to you. Yeah. No, you don't. Yeah. I thought you wanted to work with me.
I thought you were a good guy, the best guy around. What murder?
So, am I free to go? Am I being detained? The tone of that, like the connotation with that sometimes is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But it is a valid question.
And you can ask it a different way. You don't have to use those words.
Well, and people are dumb and conflate it because if you're stopped by a police officer, you are being detained. You're being detained. Don't even ask, Yeah. You are being detained. Stop, answer the question, present your ID. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's just what you got to do. So, all right. I got a game before we get to the next thing. It's Guess the Bail, okay? New game on Tangled Rights.
Jesus.
Guess the bail amount, okay?
Do I at least know what state it's in?
I'm going to tell you all the details. This is a doctor by the name of Gerhard Koenig, okay? I don't know
like
if you
a practicing doctor currently?
Practicing doctor in the state of Maui.
The state of Maui?
Yeah.
What state is Maui?
In the state of Hawaii, the island of Maui. Don't be a jerk.
Ha-ha.
Okay,
You said something wrong.
He was hiking with his wife. They have 2 young children.
And the reports
tried
to push her off a cliff.
That he tried to push her off the cliff.
I heard this story. I don't know anything about the rest of it.
The bail was just today. There are also reports he was trying to hit her with a rock, kind of injure her. She does get injured, okay? And then there's reports that he's just gone and he's missing. She goes to the hospital. Who knows where the kids are? This is the news, we get
because it develops.
We get bits and pieces here. So he is charged with attempt murder. Mm-hmm. Okay, he was missing supposedly for 6 hours on a manhunt. Who knows if he really
go very far.
Maybe he thought she was dead and left her for dead, and went to go home. I don't think she fell off the cliff. It doesn't sound like it.
Just bashed her with a rock.
Got hit with the rock. Yeah. So, which is just, is he trying to have her fall? Hey, she fell off while we were trying to hike.
It's happened more than once.
Kind of thing.
There's several stories I've seen where people go out.
Is that what he's trying to do?
I'm sure.
I would guess. We don't know for certain, but that could be.
She didn't fall.
What he's going with. Not trying to pay her half, and have her go away.
I'm not giving her half my shit.
Just have her gone. So he is supposedly trying to leave, manhunt for 6 hours. Who knows, if that's true or not. Him? That detail's not in the news reports I read, so who knows?
How old are the kids?
It just said young kids, okay? And usually their identities are protected in
sure,
these
but
news
if they're
articles.
10, that's a different story than if they're 3.
I don't know, okay? And this isn't part of Guess the Bail. That's not going to tell you what the bail is. So, Justin, what is his bail amount?
Doctor, good assets, serious case, risk to the public. I'm assuming no priors.
No priors that were reported.
250?
$5 million.
What?
Yeah. Take it higher, baby. Yeah, $5 million bail.
Bro,
So,
we got a guy down here who's... Ugh, whatever.
I think, what's-her-face Ghost Adventures got like 100,000.
Bro,
I think it was 100,000.
The dude, the Palo Verde coach that molested like 40 kids,
Yeah, what'd
his
he get?
bail's only 500,000.
And you have to pay what? 15% now is going right here in Las Vegas?
It depends on the case.
75,000.
With him,
maybe
because he's
50
old,
grand.
he's got a house, there's collateral. I don't think they care.
Not as much.
Not as much. Probably 10%. So
Okay.
he probably paid 50 grand.
Well, $5 million. I don't know if he has just the assets for it, but maybe maybe she looked really messed up. There's not pictures of her. Maybe she's really bloodied and
So he's a flight
bruised and-
risk. Obviously, he's got money, but usually what they'll do is they'll do like electronic monitoring. So, I mean, if you want to talk about conditions, I would have said, hundreds of thousands with electronic monitoring, which is house arrest.
Yeah, maybe
But $5 million.
And maybe there's more specific details. We see how bad the news reports are on other things, so it's like, who knows?
$5 million, shit.
All right,
Get to the next one.
We played the game.
Oh, it's just one?
That was it.
No.
That was it. I'm going to bring this back though.
We
This
should
was
do
a
this.
fun one.
Let's do this. I'll do it. I'll get some for you next time too.
Okay. All right. We wanted to talk about your favorite finger, the middle finger. Okay.
That one.
I saw some videos.
If you're in Britain, you do it like this.
I saw some videos and chat. We're going to clip that. We got 2 of them. Okay.
If we want to live in a free society, we have to ensure that we can speak openly to the police.
Gregory Bombard is set to receive a $175,000 settlement from the state of Vermont following a traffic stop that led to an arrest in 2018.
No, it looked like you put me out when you were going by there.
This dashcam footage provided to NBC5 shows Vermont State Police Trooper Jay Riggin pulling Bombard over for allegedly giving him the middle finger. Bombard said he never made the gesture. Riggin questioned him at the scene, then walked away.
After that, Greg got annoyed. He was upset that the trooper stopped him for no good reason and flipped him the bird. After that, you can guess what happened.
You got in the car, you're under arrest. How am I under arrest for your early conduct? I'm not going to debate this with you. Please get out of the car.
Bombard later filed a lawsuit against Riggin with the help of the ACLU, saying the arrest violated his First Amendment rights.
Absolutely. The First Amendment doesn't protect only speech that the police like. And we have a right in this country. It's a fundamental constitutional right to express criticism with the government. And if police don't agree with that speech, they are not allowed to abuse their authority to punish it.
In a statement, Bombard said he hopes VSP will train troopers to avoid silencing criticism or making baseless car stops. The plan is to use the money to pay his attorney and to take his mom out for a nice dinner.
The message we hope it sends is that public officials need to be careful. They need to be aware of people's First Amendment rights.
Truman Ingham, Marjorie City Police Department. What's the middle finger? Is that a certain hand signal that you got to give away?
Just that. Is that why you pulled?
Yes, driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
Cops egos can be very fragile sometimes. Humans' egos can be fragile, but this is specifically about cops this time.
Oh, yeah.
So
they don't like getting told to fuck off.
This is not a case that's ever gone up to the Supreme Court, but there are lower court level decisions about flipping the bird to people, giving the middle finger to people.
Something similar gone to the Supreme Court?
No. What? Which one? What are you talking about? Flashing headlights is one that is also is a similar kind of topic of First Amendment activity. So
armbands, flags. I'm going through the checklist and a Rolodex in my brain. T-shirts are good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your First Amendment rights are pretty thorough in public places. Okay. Government places, public places, not on private land, right? Private property.
Well, they can just tell you to trust. They can tell you to leave.
Completely different situation.
But anyway,
you can drive by a cop. Okay. This is the controlling case law right now. Not quite the U.S. Supreme Court, although potentially it should, although with our current Supreme Court, who knows?
Yeah, don't do that.
You are allowed to flip off the police, okay?
Hell yeah.
As long as you are not doing anything wrong, otherwise, you can flip off the police all you want, and they have no right to come up to you to stop you.
They have no legal right.
They have no legal right. They have the power and ability to do so. And in these videos, we see that they will do that because they're offended. One of them, they say that it's an illegal hand gesture because some of the old laws you'll see, we used to not have blinkers in our cars. Okay. Yeah. So like back in farm time, you would wave, your arm a certain direction to say you're stopping, slowing, whatever. If you have a car not equipped with headlamps, with lights, you can, in some of these states, some of these states, you can still use hand gestures. So one of these cops tried to call it an illegal hand gesture and try to detain somebody for that.
You were made like it was basically failure to signal or something like that.
Yeah, that's an illegal signal, illegal hand signal.
Man, I mean, good on him. That's a clever.
He tried anyway.
Clever. What I would do, I feel like I wonder if there's a rule about having to drive.
No, I don't think there's any.
No,
there could be a state that has an attention rule where you have to have two hands on the wheel.
Failure to pay full attention.
I've never seen any.
Failure to pay full attention. I'm driving along and I'm like,
yeah. But that's if the cop is on the body cam saying it's something else though.
Oh, dude.
They can't go back and revise it.
No, for sure.
They can't go and say, well, I actually pulled him over.
They don't get to armchair quarterback it.
Yeah, they don't get to say, well, this other thing, was what really tipped me off. If you're saying, why did I pull you over, and you say this specific thing,
but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because even if the case is dismissed, you still got arrested.
Well, one of these cases gets a settlement, against the police force
they beat the shit out of him or something.
No, just for being detained.
Nice.
Okay,
I love that.
And so your rights are important and can be violated. I mean, having a conversation with police. Sometimes their supervisor will come and have a conversation with you too, and ask the other cop, be like, well, what happened? And since it didn't happen to the cop that comes in second, when you have to explain yourself to the other cop, well, he flipped me off and it hurt my feelings, So, okay, well, you don't have probable cause to stop somebody if they flip you off.
Yeah.
Well, it was a hand signal, It's like, so that's not a hand signal.
The funny thing there is
because you got flipped off.
If they pull you over in that situation and they find a beheaded body in the back of your truck, like underneath a tarp or something, they never would have found it anyway. Evidence gets excluded.
Fruit of the poisonous tree.
You walk with murder.
Fruit of the poisonous. Well, potentially, right?
Yeah.
They could then talk to other people that maybe could pin you,
whatever. But if they didn't have anything and that was the first thing they found, then they're fucked.
Because they'd continue on with that investigation, right? They wouldn't just stop. They'd be like, no, this is justice, so it's okay. And it's like, no, like
ends justify the means.
You have to. It's much more important for cops to follow their rules than
Oh, because the stakes are so much higher.
Because they have to do it all correct, and most of them are trained. Most of them are properly trained and know what they should do. But sometimes it gets diluted, and they don't actually understand the rules because they don't study this like the lawyers do. So they'll pass it off to the DA, and sometimes the DA will be like, you're violating their Fourth Amendment right by doing this.
They do that?
Yes, they do.
Throw away cases for that?
They do, on occasion.
Crazy.
You'll see it. They don't look as closely at police reports.
They're not looking for that.
There's a department here in Clark County, and they just file the complaints to pass it off to the next one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, no, there's enough there. We can pass it off. And then sometimes those cases get dismissed. Who knows? But you need an attorney to fight those specific ones, right?
Yes.
Because the initial conversation, there has to be a basis for it. Mm-hmm. Cops can walk by you and have a conversation with you. You don't have to stop and talk to them unless...
Just like anybody.
I'd never recommend anybody to run away, like that.
That's hilarious. A cop comes to you.
That's always going to create issues for you.
Why? It's not probable cause.
It's not probable cause, but then they're going to chase you because they're going to...
That's fine. Maybe I'll get tased again. Next time I see a cop, I'm doing that. I'm just going to look at him and turn and run.
They're going to... Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
There's advisable...
You want my ID? You want me to get it from you?
So, while you have rights to do certain things, and this is a point of clarification we want to make, flip off the cops all you want, but be prepared for what might come afterward. Because if you do flip off a cop, They might just pull you over.
All speech is free.
But the person that gets paid in their case, it takes 5 years to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
They have the stress of litigation hanging over their heads, which is no small thing. Like, it's very serious that people, don't take seriously enough. Yeah. It sucks to be in a lawsuit.
And you also got your ass
fun. Beat. And typically, yes.
Or whatever.
You got beat up or whatever. So do you have the right to flip off the judge or to flip off police? Not. Yeah. Let me try that one again. Do you have the right to flip off police? Yes, you do.
Did you use the middle finger?
No, I would never. I went like this. Read between the lines.
Oh, it's the same fucking thing, you nerd.
I did it. You just didn't look, huh? You didn't see. Yeah, I definitely did. Just to illustrate, okay?
Hannah's going to be so mad at you.
Just to illustrate. You have the right to use your middle finger against the police.
Against them.
But you might get pulled over if you do so. Would I advise to do it? No, probably not. Have I thought about doing it for fun? Definitely.
You could get your ass beat by the Polizei.
Am I going to do it? Are they going to pull me over and look for something else? Do I have a temp tag on my car right now and I, don't want them to pull me over? Yes, I do, So I don't want to risk that.
Yes.
But yes, you have a right to flip off the police if you want. Okay. A lighter story that we wanted to talk about is there is a boy in Mount Pleasant. This is in Racine County. I think this is also in Illinois. We'll play the clip of his 911 call.
Oh, God, this one.
He calls the cops.
It's adorable.
Saying that his mom was eating his ice cream.
No, she wouldn't let him have his ice cream is what it was, I thought.
And she was eating it.
Oh,
she was eating it.
Bitch.
Yeah, seriously.
God wills it.
Don't eat your kids' ice cream. If you teach them about 911, they might use it against you.
Yeah.
So we'll clip this. We'll clip this audio. Thankfully, it's a better story.
Oh shit.
I called County 911. What's the emergency?
Oh yeah. Hello.
This is Racine County 911. What's the address of the emergency?
My mom is being bad.
Okay. What's going on?
Hello? Come and get my mommy.
Okay, what's going on?
Come get my mommy.
Do you know Hi, what's going on over there?
Oh, this little one got the phone, and he's 4.
Okay.
And we're trying to catch him because he said he was going to call 911.
No, I just called the police, and I just told her to come and get my mommy. And I just told her, and I just told her to get my mommy, and I just told her to put her to jail. So leave me alone.
I ate his ice cream, so that's probably why he's calling 911.
Okay, so you don't need police, fire, or rescue? No? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and disregard. Can I just have you confirm your address, and can I get your name, please? Okay, we'll go ahead then and disregard if you don't need police, fire, or rescue.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it's wholesome.
It's
like...
We need
and the cop did, did a good job.
Do we have a listener question, Austin?
What's a legal myth that most people think is true but isn't?
What is a legal myth that most people think is true but isn't? I want to go back. You get yours in a second.
Mine's just funny.
I watch a lot of videos. People think that they have a right to have a supervisor. Call your supervisor to the police. You do not have a right to the supervisor. They can give you the phone number, and you have a right to call them yourselves. You do not have a right to stop the police officer from investigating what he's doing and giving you a ticket, arresting you, or whatever, okay? You don't have a right to a supervisor. You can ask for one. You can request one. I see this all the time in these videos, people requesting a supervisor. You just don't have a right to one, okay? That's one of the questions people ask. Am I being detained? Am I free to go? Good question. I want to speak to your supervisor.
No.
This is not Burger King. You cannot have it your way.
Yes.
So that's a tiny one that I.
So mine is kind of the same. I was just going to say.
Really?
I know my rights.
No, you
don't. That's a common legal myth. You don't. You don't fucking know them. I don't even know them all. And this is my job.
And we study them all the time, all day long. We look at these cases.
You definitely don't know your fucking rights.
Listen, Cletus. People think they
get
know,
off the lawnmower and shut up.
People think they know their rights, or they want their rights to be what they think they are. Right?
I want my rights to be absolute.
I don't have to show you my ID.
Yeah, I'm traveling, not driving.
Turns out, yes, you do. Okay,
I don't want to pay registration anymore.
You're good.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Especially now that we found out where they go, USAID.
There's a lot of questions.
You can't have fucking transgender clinics in India anymore because the funding dried up. You can't have your whatever opera in Colombia. Like, get fucked. Like, if you're not all mad about your taxes, there's no help for you. I don't think. You should be pissed.
I don't like paying them, but there are reasonable things for our taxes to go to.
Yeah, because we never had stuff before taxes in 1913.
Yeah. Hey, well, let's go back to Salem Witch trial days, okay? That's what Justin really wants. He doesn't like his new rights.
I'd be dead. I had bronchitis a lot and stuff as a kid. I wouldn't have made it past 5 because we wouldn't have had antibiotics.
Thank you, antibiotics. Thank you, Tangled Rights. What a good episode. Episode 46. What should we do for our year anniversary, guys? Drop a comment below.